We saw straight line winds yesterday. We were a little bit surprised, or at least I was, that we had an earthquake there in Simpson County. But I've served as governor now for 6 years, and I've learned to never be surprised about anything because that's the times that we find ourselves in. So with that, I will turn it over to any questions that you may have. Yes.
Hunter Dawkins with the Bethesda has a question.
Okay.
Governor, thanks very much. Shelby, thanks very much for this. One quick question, and this had more or less to do with the release I got from last week. It said that you were approving of, or you've received grants from the Mississippi Outward Stewardship Trust Fund for about $13.5 million.
Yes.
These were going to be areas that may have been affected by the weather that was coming through yesterday. Do you see any potential, or have you heard of any harms to where the money is going to be received for these areas?
Well, thank you for that question, Hunter, and as always, thanks for getting on our opportunity to be online. What I would tell you is I don't know of any specific examples at this time. It's still fairly early in the assessment process, but Mississippi's outdoors are incredibly important to us and who we are. Mississippi's outdoors and conservation is incredibly important to our state. It's important to our economy, and we're going to monitor closely and determine if any of those where we are investing resources had any damage, and also we're going to make sure that we continue to invest in making Mississippi a great place to live and work and raise a family. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Has MEMA been in touch with federal partners? Do we expect any additional help there? And if so, what the scope look like in the timeline?
Yeah, sure. The question, if you didn't hear it, was with respect to our federal partners. Just a reminder, because I think sometimes with the national political conversation, people either get confused or forget the way in which disaster management is supposed to work under the Stafford Act. When natural disasters hit, the response must be, for it to be done properly, state managed, locally executed, and federally supported. And that is the way natural disasters responses have been done in the past, and that's the way they're always going to be done in Mississippi, certainly while I am governor. The reason for that, of course, is because the Mississippians that work here at the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency work very closely with our federal partners, but we know our emergency managers, we have those direct relationships with those emergency managers, and we know when they ask for something, we know that they need it. So I anticipate that continuing to work at the same in this particular response and any in the future. As Max said earlier, and I'll turn it over to him, he was in contact with the FEMA Region 4 administrator early last week, and I'm sure has been throughout the weekend. I've heard multiple times from the White House over the last 48 hours, and the reality is as we do more and more damage assessments and have more and more accurate data, when it becomes necessary and the right time to ask for those federal resources, we will do so in an expedited manner.
I think the governor hit it straight on the head. Our relationship with FEMA, the federal government, has not changed, just like my relationship with the county EM directors, 82 counties, and the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians in 14 counties. So we continuously work together. We train together. They know what the process is, and we work very methodically through it because we're going to get the right data at the right time, and we're going to get it up. And in the meantime, if the locals say that they have a need, we're going to help them open a shelter. We're going to call the American Red Cross. We're going to get those 8 Days of Hope, those other individuals in that can help and do the things that we need while we're getting that accurate data that we can actually put together, give it to the governor, and then we can make that request for a federal declaration of any type if and when we meet those gates, so to speak. So that's kind of where we are. There's nothing changed in the game of emergency management. From the past, we are still spot on. We are still good, and it is still locally driven. Those are the guys and gals that were in it. And we were talking on the phone together while these storms were coming through, and they're out there at the front line, trying to get people out of houses and homes, and then we're reporting that information back up through our liaisons we have here to the feds. So they're anticipating, they're leaning forward, I'm leaning forward, and that local element, that local emergency manager that's trained in that county is in it. So we are all poised, we're all there, and there's been no change here in Mississippi. Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you talk a bit more about what things look like on the ground in Walpole County right now? I'm sure that these storms brought to mind for a lot of folks the tornadoes that leveled Rolling Fork in 23, and I'm just wondering how it compares, like what it looks like on the ground right now out there.
When you look in a survivor's face in any storm, it takes me back to Katrina. It takes me back to many other disasters in which I've had to work and had to be. That gut check does not change. And so when you look at the widespread damage here, we're talking 1,000 to 2,000 feet, and that's my estimate. When I'm sitting on that road and I'm looking to my left and my right today while I was down there, major telephone poles gone, everything else, and you're talking 25 to 35 feet up, pine trees were snapped. We're not talking about twisted, we're not talking about rolled over, snapped, almost like a big giant brought in the hedgers and just cut it off and laid them down, because you've got a huge, what looks like dead trees, but it's the stumps. And then everything else is green, so you can see this wide path that goes, and the panic that must have been going through those survivors' minds when they were there. And you're there in their front yard, moving 10 today. I stopped and pulled over just to help move 10 out of the front yard, the front sidewalk, out of someone's, and they don't know the next thing to do. You almost get frozen. So small disasters, big disasters, it doesn't matter. Those survivors matter, and that's what the locals and the teams that I have out here today, getting out there, talking to them. What do you need? What do you need right now? Finding a person that needs electricity because they're on a medical pump of some type. So we're prioritizing those things, making those hot shot runs here and there, delivering that information. Department of Health was working with Walthall Hospital last night because they were having some issues. So it's a team effort. And when the governor signs an executive order, the state of emergency, then MEMA becomes his coordinating agency. It's not just MEMA. I can't just sit up here and say MEMA did. MEMA did. We had the Department of Transportation was out last night with cut teams. They were moving debris off of the roads. We've got plenty of pictures of them. I'm talking to Brad White consistently. Was talking to Sean Tyndall. He offered me a helicopter. And I said, not in this weather. So it's it's one of those where we know each other and we know what we can count on. I've talked with the National Guard and said, hey, stand by. I don't have that pull yet, but the Jolly Green, I'm going to pull that in when it's needed. So all those state agencies, Department of Health, you name it, that we have in those emergency support functions out there on that big emergency operations floor, they are responsive. Health services, they've been working on shelters. I mean, we are totally one team, one Mississippi. That is, we've got a good plan. We've rehearsed it well. We are damage and disaster rich, unfortunately, Governor. But at this time, we're the number one team, and we've got it together. And we're going to do everything we can do for everybody in the SIP, every survivor.
Yeah, let me just say a couple of things. Obviously, when you think about these storms, Mac mentioned earlier that the storm that came through Friday evening north of here, it started in the Delta and exited in the northeast corner of the state. On the ground, we believe, for at least 50 miles. That is a long time for a tornado to be on the ground. The first tornado that went through Walthall County, we believe, was on the ground for over 70 miles in the southwest part of our state. That is a long time to be on the ground. But to Mac's point, for every individual that was affected, it really isn't that important to them if it was on the ground for 70 miles or 700 yards because it affected them. And obviously this particular storm in the southwest part of the state, as most of you know, I've been around a long time, and Ely is from Tylertown, and so we're blessed to have a lot of friends in every community around the state, and no matter who gets hit, we get data and information very quickly. But you can imagine we got a lot of data and a lot of information, and quite frankly, a lot of opinions yesterday. And so we made a conscious decision earlier today to let our director and our deputy assistant director here travel today. Obviously, because when I'm on the ground, it takes a little more coordination and really takes away from search and rescue, or can. And so I plan to be on the ground tomorrow in several of the affected areas. And so, but from the other thing I'll just mention, and this is not brand new, but it's a feature that we're seeing more and more with all of the cameras that exist out there, and the video that we saw not only from security cameras as an example from yesterday's storm. We have a better feel, real life feel, even though we're 50, 60, 70 miles north of the actual event, of what's going on. And then of course we've also got the ability to fly drones, which we've done some today, and so we have really good video of what's happened, and it's devastating. It's some really difficult things to see, and a lot of damage, and it's going to take us a while to recover, but we're going to do what Mississippians do, and we're going to get up and we're going to help ourselves and help our neighbors, and that's the way we're going to handle it. Yes.
Raven Coburn with WREG has a question.
Good.
Hello, Governor. I just wanted you to reiterate the estimate of the number of tornadoes that you said so far that you all have assessed. Was it 10 or is it 12?
12. It's 12 tornadoes have been estimated, but that number very well could go up as we are gathering data, and the more information that we receive from the counties and from individuals. The National Weather Service and others will take that information, take that data, put it into their system, and estimate exactly where we are. But at this point, we are estimating 12 different tornadoes in the state of Mississippi from sundown on Friday till about 10 p.m. last night. So over about a 27 or 28 hour period, 12 tornadoes all throughout the state. The tornadoes, I should just mention, are things that we all see and we realize, and we see the horrible damage, but the cause and effect needs to be reiterated, and that is when tornadoes hit, or when really bad weather hits, or when the storm damage comes through and it involves a lot of rainfall, then there becomes flooding, and that's what you're going to see right now in the northeast part of our state. So while we may not have had significant tornado damage in, for instance, Prentiss County, we had a lot of water in a very quick period of time. That's going to cause a lot of roads to be shut down in Prentiss County, and perhaps Itawamba County, certainly in Tishomingo County. And those are the kind of things that we're assessing right now, and will continue to do so. That water, by the way, that is flooding in Prentiss County now is going to move down through the state over the next several days and weeks, and that's going to create other issues that we have to deal with. And so I'm always amazed after a day like yesterday when we wake up and when we go outside and how beautiful the weather is the day after. Just know that just because the sun's out doesn't mean there aren't a lot of work being done all around the state, still trying to recover from the horrific events of March the 15th, 2025. Any other questions? Seeing none, again, I want to thank everyone who has been working around the clock to address these challenges in the state of Mississippi. And I want to thank the people of our state for being who you are, for your willingness to get out and help your friends and neighbors. Be sure you're working with your local emergency managers. We need to coordinate volunteer services. That is incredibly important. Everybody wants to just show up and start working, and I know how important that is to you. But please know that there's got to be a coordinating effort, and there's a coordinating effort in every single county. And the reason for that is because we want to get this cleaned up in the most efficient way possible both for us and for the individuals in these local communities. So thank you all very much, and God bless.